say you are listening to, you are absolutely listening to the George Espinlov Show, coming to you live from the Funny Farm. Now, with no further ado, here comes Georgie!
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, it's great to be back. Thank you, gang. I really appreciate that. All right, all the whistles and the clapping and the cheering and the stomping and all that good stuff. Thank you so very, very much. The first show of the new year. What is today? The 7th? January 7th. If it's not, I'll make it the 7th. January 7th, 2013. And we finally made it back after a week that wasn't planned to be off. The first week we took off was for Christmas. And we celebrated Christmas with family and friends, and we had a great time. And we got rested, and all of a sudden, whatever that thing was, it jumped on me, and I mean, it kicked my booty and put me down for days. But now, I'm back up, back on the air, got that warm, fuzzy feeling, and ready to go again. Thank you. You're listening to the George Espinlov Show, in case you didn't already know that. And we're coming to you live from the Funny Farm in a place called Our World. We don't know where that is. We don't have no specific mailing address. We don't even have a mailbox. We just live here. And that's good enough for us. To all our friends down the street, around the corner, across this great nation, and around the world, I welcome you tonight, and I'm so glad to be back. Thank you. I think it's going to be a good year. All right. Thank you. Thank you so very, very, very much. Our first guest of 2013. Charlie, you get the doodad hooked up to the whatchamacallit so we can put the thingamajig together, and we'll get the... Did I say dooflicky? We'll get the dooflicky operating here. Okay. Good boy. All right. Our first guest is a man by the name of Jason Dowd, a very talented man. A man that is, what's the word? Intriguing. And his whole life is... I'm trying to find the words because I've been reading about it and looking at it all day long, off and on. It's, how can I put it? His life is sectional, but all the sectionals come together to make one purpose. So without any further ado, our first guest in 2013, we want to welcome Jason Dowd to the program. Jason, welcome to the George Espinlov Show.
Thank you for having me.
Finally, huh?
Yes.
We finally made it.
Yes, we did.
I was trying to describe you to our listeners, and the only way that I could describe you was in the Espinlov way, and that's not always the right way, but nonetheless, I said that you are a sectional fella. You come in sections. But all those sections make you into one, and it points you in one direction. I don't know if they got that or not. I'm not so sure I even got it. I know what I mean, but I'm just having a hard time explaining it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, so on and so forth.
Well, I was born and raised in Bristol, Connecticut, and I lived there my whole entire life until I was around 13. Moved down here, graduated school, so my childhood down here was very, very short and minimal in Florida. And when I got out of school, I went into college to become a designer, drafter. And shortly after I got out of there, I realized that drafting really wasn't what I wanted to do. I really wanted to design. But since I've wasted so much money going to school just to learn to draw and draft, which anybody could really do, that I had no choice but to go into just a regular job and try to find my way through life. So I kind of fell back on the notion that with my grandmother and my mom had for me growing up, and that was one of them was to be an artist, because I've always had a pen and pencil in my hand or in paper or some type of camera in my hand, or be a writer. And I kind of like the art field best because it really was my way of expressing myself. The problem with it is that I didn't want to be a starving artist, so what I did is I went into the photography world, and I kind of started dabbling into portraits and stuff like that to make money at it, just like a normal studio would. And then I started my own studio in 2003 and continued on from there. But in 2009, I kind of took another angle at it because I wanted to take more than just landscapes, and I wanted a little bit more than just people. But I truly believe in the art of the human body. The human body is a phenomenal work of art. The intricacies of the eyes down to the nails that we have, the hair, everything about it is special. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different shape. They have a different color. They have a different attitude. Everything about you is different. So I wanted to take that and materialize that into art forms. I didn't quite know how to do it yet. And then shortly in 2009, I had a near-death experience that completely opened my eyes. And it made me relive all these nightmares and stuff that I've had throughout my entire life. And I had one recurring dream that I had since 1986. Actually, 1984, when I was 6 years old. And it continued to grow and grow and grow and grow. And it never really did stop. As I got older, it kind of was a little bit less frequent than it was when I was a child. But when I have it, it was just so real, I didn't even know if it was a dream. If it was a dream or reality. So I kind of put those in art forms, and I used people to express it because it was the only way that I could do it because I was a real person. And my first picture that came out was a picture called Death to Yesterday, and it basically was a vision, a nightmare that I had when I was. I actually can't say it was a nightmare. It's actually very calming, but I didn't quite understand it until I put it in the paper. And that particular picture got me some amazing recognition, and so it went to Hong Kong, China. It was in a gallery out there. It went to San Diego. It's been in Tampa, Tarpon Springs, newspapers all over the place. Just because people like how it's got a dark sense to it, but it also has a very good meaning behind it. And ever since then, I've been taking my own nightmares and dreams and fears and fantasies and put them into artwork. And so I can take people and put them into mystical creatures or urban legends or celebrity lookalikes, fairies, all kinds of different stuff. And then as I started doing that, people started to say, well, what's in your head? Are you, how could you be Christian? How could you be this? How could you be that? And so the only way that I could describe it to them was in my book, which was A Haunted Soul. I wrote that last year. And it basically takes some of the pictures that I have and explains how they impacted my life. And it's basically a paranormal experiences that I've had all throughout my life that have completely impacted my life, and it's helped me make and see the world in a whole new light, and also see the ability to take this and make this into a wonderful art project that I hope that will show people diversity and the balance of good and evil in this world, and show people the amazing cultures that we have out there and why they should all be appreciated. Don't put the blindfolds on, because when you do, you don't see the true nature of these people, and you really close yourself off to a lot of things. And just because you hear the word Christianity, or you hear the word Jesus, or you hear the word Allah or whatever, that doesn't mean you're going to be converted. It just means that there's somebody else out there that believes something different than you, and it makes them special. So that's pretty much my whole life in a nutshell.
You did I read somewhere that you were on Fox?
Yes, I was on the Tampa Bay version of Fox. Everybody has a local news Fox, local news station. We have Fox 13, and they actually brought me on there to talk about vintage photography and show some of my Dreams, Nightmares, Fears, and Fantasies Volume 2 that they put out there, and some of my Georgia collection and some of my lighthouses.
Now, when you talk about your dreams, nightmares, fears, and fantasies, excuse me, that's drawings, right? I mean, a collection of drawings. Do I have that right?
No, they're actually photographs.
Photographs.
They're very cinematographic photographs. What I do is, like, when I set up a picture, I come up with a location. I come up with a costume. I get the right model to do it. I come up with the hair, the makeup, and everything else. And I usually work with the model to accomplish these things. They usually do their own makeup and their own hair, but I just kind of show them what the style I want to come up with. And then we shoot these things. I found somebody that looks just like Betty Davis, and she was no older than 18 years old. She didn't even know, honestly, who Betty Davis was until she went and Googled it. And we do a lot of things like that. I've done like a Marilyn Monroe, the life and death of Marilyn Monroe, Queen Anne Boleyn, the life and death of Queen Anne Boleyn, and a whole bunch of other things. So, it's just a matter of what I can put together and what goes through my mind and what goes through people's minds. Because I also take other people's dreams, nightmares, fears, and fantasies and portray it. If they can't even be in it, that's fine. I'll try to portray it for somebody else so they can maybe live through it, and I can take what they gave me and portray it through my eyes.
Now, when you, I'm getting it. Sometimes it takes me a while, Jason, but I get it. When you take these people, of course, you're using props, right?
Oh yeah.
You're using props and makeup and the whole thing, just like you said. Where do these ideas come from? I mean, they come from your head, right?
They usually come from my head. Usually it's when I'm sleeping, and believe it or not, they say that the witching hour is between 11 o'clock at night and 3 in the morning, and they're right, because that's when all my particular ideas come to pass. Sometimes I wake up with an idea in the middle of the night of something I had in my dream, and it's a vivid memory of that just pops up there, and I'm like, man, okay, I got to go write this down. Sometimes I'm watching TV, sometimes I'm listening to a song, sometimes I'm walking down the street and driving or something like that, and I see something outside there, and I'm like, this could make a great picture. Sometimes it's reading something in a book. One of the pictures I'm going to be doing to finish up the fourth volume of my series so far is going to be the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And I'm going to take each particular verse and make a mini model of a mini set and physically take the pictures and make it into that song. So you'll actually see the song in pictures.
Wow.
So as I would see it. So that's going to be one of the things, but it's going to be very complex because there's a lot of things I'm going to have to physically draw. There's going to be things I'm going to have to build, and there's going to be people that I have to involve with this. So it's not an easy project, to say the least, because you got to get everything just right. And but when I do, it's going to be a pretty remarkable piece, I think.
And your things, your art, has been in Hong Kong, like you said, across the U.S. When you talk about a haunted soul, that's the book that you just recently wrote.
That's correct.
And that is a true account of what has taken place in your life. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the reason why I say I'm a haunted soul is because for years, and a lot of people are going to believe this, some people are not going to believe this, it's just my life. And I was always I always kept that very, very secret to me because I tried to explain what I was seeing to people when I was growing up, and I was shunned. But I saw my first ghost when in 1986, 87. It was just before I turned, I want to say 7 or 8. There's a cemetery up in Connecticut called the Green Lady Cemetery. It's one of the most historic cemeteries up in that area. And I was out there with my parents, and I happened to see the ghost. They never admitted that they saw anything, and for the longest time, I really thought I was completely insane. And I went to a Lutheran school, so when I one afternoon I went into it was connected to my church. I went to see the pastor, and I talked to him. And he said, "Well, we don't believe in ghosts. We believe in demons, and that was not a demon. That was not a ghost. You didn't see anything. You can't be talking like this." So then I went and talked to the kids in school, and I was telling them about what I saw, and the teachers overheard it and completely reprimanded me over it. They said, "Look, if you're going to say something like this, we're going to kick you out, or give you detention." I said, "Well, I can't let that happen," so I was completely quiet. And then nobody would ever back up my story, but in 1993, when I went up to Connecticut, I saw on my aunt's coffee table a book called Legendary Connecticut Ghosts and Hauntings. And in there was the Green Lady Cemetery, and it described exactly the ghosts that I saw, feature for feature for feature, that was accounted for over 200 years of sightings. So, for the first time in my life, I actually had verification that I wasn't alone. And from that point on, ever since I was younger, I saw spirits. I had a dream that I was buried alive, and I kind of actually knew what it was like to die before I was even 8 years old. And people don't understand what that's like now as adults. Kids, when they're 8 years old, don't even know they can die. Look at the stuff that they do. I mean, they're completely, reckless with the activities that they do because they think they're invincible. And to be able to have that particular vision and persona on death, it was just freaked people out. So I never said anything, and I just kind of kept it to myself. And as I grew up, I saw more and more ghosts. And then in 1993, when the same year I went up to Connecticut to visit my family, I was haunted by a demonic entity, and I wasn't the only one that saw it. A lot of my friends had seen the demon or felt the effects of the demon, and didn't want to come over to my house anymore. And the thing really tore me apart. And I didn't tell anybody again. I mean, it really didn't attack my family, but they saw the things that were going on with me, and I just kind of played it off because I didn't want anybody to think I'm nuts or that I'm doing it myself. So it just kind of grew and grew and grew, and it's like you hold this stuff in there and you don't tell people, but you don't realize that by not telling people, you're actually hurting yourself more than helping yourself. And I was kind of one of those oddballs anyways in school, so I really didn't want anybody to think anything weird of me. But then I started realizing as I got older, too, in school, I didn't like to be around crowds, and I didn't like to be around anybody or anything, or I didn't even like to really shake people's hands or give people hugs, because I could feel like all their energy like coming off them. It's like I knew exactly what they were thinking, or I knew secrets about them that I didn't want to know. And I'm like, why is this happening? It's like a million voices in my head when I got around people. And I just realized that I had a sixth sense as I got older, and it was actually brought out to me in 2010, and it was just one of those things. And throughout my life, I also was just kind of going through life knowing that something was missing. And I didn't know what it was. And one of the worst things that you can have happen to you is to, misplace something, or, there's just something wrong, or you forgot something, but you don't know what it is. It'll drive you insane. Well, I actually had that for over 30 years, 31 years, something like that. And I finally realized when I talked to a friend of mine, and my mom verified it, was that I had a twin that never made it out of birth, that never made it alive. It was a stillbirth, and then what ended up, he died in utero, same thing, I think. But basically, because it was before the first trimester, there was no grave, there was no death certificate, nobody knew it was there. I never knew it. Mm-hmm. So I went, so then I had that connection to being a twin that it just kind of, made my whole life make sense. So it just. That's kind of how all this stuff kind of happened throughout my life, and it just continued to grow and grow and grow. And then by releasing it through the book and the artwork, it's been a very therapeutic experience for me.
Just about every account that I've ever heard of, or read about, or seen on, whether it be the Discovery Channel or whatever, when people have these experiences like you had, and especially when they're small, the reactions of people are pretty near the same everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I kind of had it a little bit different, and I was always one of those very strong-willed, stubborn kids, and I'm still very stubborn to this day. So I never really let it get to me, and I was one of those kids that can just, out of sight, out of mind. Like I could literally, give myself a sprained ankle and run on it because I can tune my head to not think about it,
Mm-hmm.
whereas a lot of people can't. So, there's the other means by accepting it, and I was able to accept it. Some people can't accept it, and then there's the people that, you grow up, and if you keep being told something over and over and over and over and over again, you believe it to be true. Therefore, that's why kids and animals, I think, can see paranormal things more than adults can, because we've been told our entire lives they don't exist. And with the kids, they haven't really had a chance to be told that they can't exist yet. So for when they see something like that, they're more accepting of it, like I was. And after I started saying things, people were telling me it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. But because I already seen it, I already discredited all that. So yeah, there are, it can be very scary. It can be scary for kids, and it can be scary for adults, and pretty much everybody will react the same. I mean, they will startle you. I can't, deny that. But I know a regular ghost does not impact me as much as that demonic entity that came out that one day. It was a year, and I mean, it was just sheer hate and evil. I mean, I could not explain into words what it was like to have to live with that. So, with people like that, they do suffer, and they do go through things more than anybody that would just have like a regular human ghost or a poltergeist or whatever in their house. And then there's some that, like I said, that will completely not believe that these things are real, and they'll ignore the entire experience. So, generally, yes, there are people handle it in different ways, but it's either you're going to believe it and accept it and deal with it and maybe be a little frightened of it, or you're going to just chalk it up to it doesn't exist, I'm just losing my mind, and I don't know which one's actually worse to deal with. I think, in my opinion, it would be worse to deny it and to think I'm going insane, or that there's something going on in my house, and call people in and have, spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars of people coming in to fix and look at stuff that's not really there, and it's not really broken.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any reason or any understanding of why you were attacked the way that you were attacked?
Well, I truly believe that when things like that attack you, they attack you at your most vulnerable point. Just because of the fact that when you're vulnerable with anything, people are able to overtake you. You're a little bit more susceptible to accept what people are asking you to do. You're more needy, and you can be manipulated a little bit more than if you're strong-willed. You're ready to go. Everything's good to go, and you have control of yourself. And at that particular time, I had just got out of 7th grade, going into 8th grade. And in 7th grade, I almost didn't have a chance to finish my 7th grade year because I had chickenpox so bad that I was out for months. It was probably the worst case of chickenpox I had ever seen. I mean, there was not one smooth spot on my body, including my fingers, my eyelids, underneath my eyelids, in my ears, in my mouth, in between my toes. I mean, anywhere you can imagine, there was a pimple. There was a pimple. Mm. And so that kind of really weakened me down a little bit. And then when I went into, my friend kept bringing over my homework, and I managed to keep up with my studies, and therefore I was able to graduate with my 7th grade and go to 8th grade with my class. And then when I went into 8th grade, things got really bad. My parents were getting a divorce. My dad lost his job. I was starting a brand new grade, getting ready for 8th grade. I was doing a lot of tests. I had to basically grow up really fast. I went from, my mom had to go to work, so I was feeding my brother because she had to work late, stuff like that. And then as that was coming up, I was also getting confirmed in my Lutheran religious beliefs. And then after that, I was getting ready to go into high school, so it was another major transaction for me. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, there's so many things going on and so many distractions. It's so easy to wear somebody down to the point where this stuff could easily come up and manipulate you. And I truly believe it was in my house and in my life for a lot longer than I thought, because I truly believe it's what got my parents to break up and have my dad do the things he did. and I just know we just didn't recognize it because everybody was vulnerable. But I happen to be strong enough to see that this is something that's major, and I was probably the one person it couldn't manipulate, so therefore it actually manifested itself.
What do you think its purpose was? I mean, just to destroy you, your family?
Yeah, I think what it was there to do was it was there to try to shake my belief in my religion. It was there to destroy my family. A lot of these things are, I truly believe that these entities are there to completely manipulate people into doing bad things. They want you to turn away from God. They want you to do everything that God says is wrong, because it's taking us farther and farther and farther away from God, whatever God you believe in. But I've noticed that most of the gods that in all the different religions are the same God. We just have a different Messiah. Like even the Quran is the original part of the Quran is almost the identical Old Testament as the Christian Old Testament, almost word for word, almost the same stories and everything else. So, I truly believe that these things are there just to manipulate us. They're there to destroy our lives, and if we don't keep on the track of good, we're not gonna be satisfied. We're gonna have problems all the way down through our lives, and as we get into these things, it's able to control us to keep us away from the promised land of eternal life.
There's two things. Years and years, and I guess it's been, my goodness, maybe 40 years ago, 40 years ago, I interviewed, people's going to laugh when I say this, but I interviewed the head psychiatrist at a state hospital back in Pennsylvania. And when we were sitting in this room and we were doing our thing, I had asked him a bunch of, I guess, small talk questions, normal questions, and I think he knew where I was going the whole time. But eventually I come out and I ask him, do you believe in demonic activity? And of course we had the old, that's back when we had the old recorders and so on and so forth. He looked at me and he reached over and he hit the stop button. And he said, off the record, I do. But if I was to tell you that I did, where it would be on a record, I would the people that his peers, his patients, family, friends would doubt his ability to take care of those that are mentally ill. And he asked me not to write that in the article that I was writing, which I didn't. But I've never forgotten that here was a man that dealt with a lot of times the criminally insane, those people that did those bad things that you was just talking about. Here was a man that believed in demonic activity, but at the same time couldn't outwardly admit there's such a thing that takes place, lest he is ridiculed and misunderstood. But yet, when people say there isn't any such thing, I've often wondered, and I want to get your thoughts on this, I've often wondered when, such as you, and you've seen certain things, experienced certain things, and you've mentioned it to certain people, and they said, nah, there isn't such a thing, or we don't believe in that, or we're not going to go there. How can they be so sure there isn't when they have never really experienced it? Do you have an answer for that?
Well, like I said, we tend to believe what we're told. And, if we're told that these things can't exist, they can't exist. That's where we put up those blinders on our eyes. We only want to see what we're told. There's also the fact that people don't want to believe in this stuff just because of the fact that it would prove that there is a God, there's life after death, and people don't want to be accountable for their actions. They don't want to sit there and be judged. So it's easier just to say, no, this stuff doesn't exist, and I'm going to continue to do what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it the way I want. So that way I can live life happy and be who I am, and everything's hunky dory. But they can't. It is hard for them to. It's easier said than done. Sometimes I wonder if they actually say that they don't believe in it, but they really do. They're just too afraid to believe in it. Because if they believe in it, it is scary. I mean, who'd want to have to deal with a demon? But then there are people that, they've never walked in their shoes, they've never seen these things, and it should be very hard for them to say it doesn't exist, because how do they know? And, I keep getting challenged, because even though I have been through this, how do I know that was a demon? How do I know that this was a particular spirit and not some fragment of my imagination? I don't. However, I do know that it did physical harm to me. These things physically were, I could describe people to other people that knew them, never seeing a picture, and other things like that. So it kind of made it a little bit more, believable. But people kept saying, well, oh, you probably just saw a picture, you saw this, you saw that. Trying to anything in their power to disprove this. So I think it's a mixture of things. I think it's easier to deny it, because if we deny that there's anything out there like this, it's more comforting. I think it's like a safety factor. Like aliens, they don't exist. So of course they could exist, but it's easier to say they don't, so I don't have to worry about them. And when you suppress that, it's just one of those things that it's easier to go on and you forget about it. It's out of sight, out of mind. But the problem with that is that if something actually does pop up and these things do show up, you're not prepared for it. That's why we always have to be prepared. That's why I believe in being open-minded and to actually think sometimes outside the box.
How long did this attack last?
The demonic one attack was from. It started showing up around December of '92, and went through the summer of '93, almost right before almost before I went into ninth grade. So I'm thinking that was. They changed the start dates for school, but I believe it was around, I want to say August, September.
Was did you experience any physical damage or repercussions from this thing?
Actually, yeah, and I still have some of the. I still feel some of the effects from it. What I was starting to do was I was starting to wake up with handprints around my neck, big handprints, handprints bigger than my hand, but it's also bigger than my dad's hand. And my dad has a really large hand, and I have a really large hand. But at the time, I was obviously smaller, so it wasn't as big as it is now. But it was very hard to deal with that, because it's like, I'm going to school, I'm taking physical education, I got to change out to get my grade. So to cover that up was really hard. The other things it was doing was it would literally, one night it did this. It actually picked me up off the ground, held me up against the wall, choked me to the point where I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to die. I was starting to I started to pass out and get really lightheaded. Then the thing would drop me. Then it picked me up again, did the same thing again, and then dropped me again, and then left me alone. I started getting big scratch marks down my back, down my legs. I started having letters carved into my chest. And my mom actually thought I was drawing letters on my chest with a razor blade and couldn't understand why I was doing that. I had bruises. I had nothing else really that major, anything else other than that it would do. It just continued to do the same thing over and over again. But the worst thing that I ever had was like an outer body experience, where I actually was able to see the ghost, the demon, in full body form, not the shadow it was appearing as. And that was the day that it took me to my parents' room and said, I'm going to kill your mother, I'm going to kill your brother, and I'm going to kill your father if you don't listen and do what I tell you to do. So that was probably the worst experience, because it was the first time I got to see it face to face, and I knew it was completely real, and there's not much I could do about it. I had to stand up to it. So But yeah, it did do some damage, and honestly, it did it to my friend too. My friend, I didn't like to have anybody over because of the fact that it was something that it was scary. I never knew when it was going to appear, even though for me it appeared the same time every night. But I didn't know if it was going to appear when somebody was over, and I didn't want them to freak out. Well, against my better judgment, I had a friend over, and he was a big guy. I mean, I'm going to say he was probably 6'2", 6'3", going into 8th grade. He didn't grow up. He didn't grow much more than that, but he just grew fast. Probably weighed about 210 pounds, something like that, in 8th grade, almost 9th grade. And we're sitting there hanging out, and he sees the shadow, and he's like, "What's that?" You know, because it was a dark room. It shouldn't have happened. I said, "Don't worry about that." And he's like, "Well, no, how are you managing to do that?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it. Just leave it alone." He goes, "Well," so he started moving his hand, trying to make it, wave back at him and see if it was his own shadow. And he said, "Do the same thing." So I showed him, "Look, it's nothing. It's probably just something on the wall." So he got, he was starting to like, well, that looks like a person. So he threw a shoe at it, and the thing just completely attacked him. I mean, it picked him up, threw him up against the wall, squeezed his neck to the point where he was turning blue in the face. Then it threw him halfway across the room onto the floor. And it was after that he got up and said he didn't want to spend the night. Did not want to. He wanted to go home. So we called his mom, and he went home.
How many, when this was all going on, did anyone else know about, I mean, was you telling somebody like mom and dad or someone in authority at school, or was this just you and this thing?
I made sure it was just me and that thing. I didn't want it to go out and anybody else be aware of it as much as I possibly can. Like I said, I didn't know if anybody else would have seen it, and until it actually attacked my friend, I didn't know anybody else even saw or felt it in the house. So I thought it may have just been a fragment of my imagination. I didn't want to be called crazy or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the things it was starting to do to me and how all that progressed and stuff like that, I just didn't want to bring anybody around, and I didn't really want to tell anybody. I eventually told my friend Paul, who is like my best friend growing up. And I told him about it, and he didn't know really what to do about it. So, we just kind of kept it to ourselves as like our own little secret. But my brother did eventually see it when he came into the room one day to try to wake me up because he thought I was sleeping, and he had a homework question. And my entire sheet cover looked like somebody was like laying on their side, kind of went high over the shoulder as the arms go down into the waist area, kind of like duck down, and it kind of comes up a little bit, and it goes down to the legs. And so he went in there. He didn't turn on the light. He went to shake me, or who he thought was me, on the blanket, and then the blanket, collapsed and fell down into nothing, and there's nobody there. And he went screaming out of the room. So that was the closest he's ever come to seeing it, but it never did anything to him. And I just wanted to protect my family, and I didn't want my family to think I was nuts. So the best thing I did was just keep it quiet to myself.
Did the big boy tell anyone?
No, he didn't. He pretty much figured that he would be the same way that I was. He'd be laughed at if anybody found out about it. So we just talked about it to ourselves, but that was almost towards the end of it anyway. So we didn't really talk too much about it. But I tried to let him know what was going on, and he kind of agreed with it. But he's since turned atheist, so he doesn't. If you asked him now, he would never even admit to what he saw, or maybe that's exactly what turned him away from Christ and his religion, wherever he was in, just because of how scared he was.
Do you feel this thing could have killed you, or do you feel that being a Christian you were protected?
Oh, it could have absolutely killed me. I mean, demons can kill anybody at any time, any way, shape, or form. The way that I dealt with it was free will. And, I truly, in my religion, Christianity, Christ gives us free will. Mm-hmm. He gave us that when we were born. He allowed us to make our own decisions and our own judgments. And one of the ways that these things can any spirit actually can manipulate you and harm you is by physically giving in to what it wants you to do. Once it does that, then's when it can possess you, then's when it can take over. It can do a whole bunch of other things. Until then, it can only kind of do little things to scare you. they can't kill you because you're not giving in to them. So that was the one thing I told it would never do. I was never going to do what it asked me to do. I wasn't going to be afraid of it, and I stood up to it. And that's pretty much what God gave me that power to do upon Jesus' death. And it worked. It really did work. And there are a lot of other people that you see that are possessed and stuff like that, and a lot of the times they give into it. I don't know if you've ever watched like The Haunting in Connecticut. It was about the demonic haunting. Actually, I lived by the house. I used to deliver papers next door to this house every morning. But it was an old funeral home, and it was haunted by a demon. They had some of the top demonologists come out and look at the place. But it came to the kid every single solitary night and just kept coming up and showing him and appearing to him and scaring him, and eventually he gave in to what it wanted him to do. And after that happened, it allowed the demon to completely control this kid. He was out of control. So they had to get him out of the house. And until they were able to remove the demon from the house, it also released the demonic grasp from the kid. So, and it attacked him mostly because he was dealing with cancer throughout his life. He was going through some special treatments, which the hospital in Southington actually offered him. So that's kind of how demons can control you and possess you. And then's when you're in really serious troubles when that happens. So the best thing I could tell you to do is to believe in your faith and don't give in to it. You know, you have free will. You have free will to do anything. You know, if somebody tells you not to drink and drive and you decide to do it, that's your free will. That's not the right thing to do, but you can die from that. And the same thing with demons.
I know this might not be, well, maybe it is. What would you suggest to young people, all people, young, middle-aged, old, it doesn't matter, when it comes to such things as tinkering in the occult, Ouija boards, such things like that?
Well, you know how they say curiosity kills the cat?
Yes.
That's exactly what I would tell them with this.
Mm-hmm.
You may get away with it for one or two times. You may think it's fun. You may think it's an adventure, but eventually, it's like playing Russian roulette. You're going to get that sixth bullet, and it's going to hit you hard. And once that does come around, if you don't know how to get rid of it or deal with it, you could be facing some serious ramifications from your actions. I suggest to people, don't do anything you don't know. And there are people that will deal with it, but generally, they have somebody that's been doing it for so long. I mean, we all have to learn somewhere, somehow, some way. But generally, when we do stuff, we learn from people that have made mistakes and have a greater understanding of this type of thing. Just because that those people have a greater understanding of that stuff doesn't mean that they're going to screw up too.
Mm-hmm. So,
I just would rather them say, don't mess with it. It's you've seen the horror stories on television. You've seen the warnings that people have said that have actually gone through it. So why would you want to do that yourself? Be smart. There are plenty of other things to do. If you want to know about the occult, read about the occult. Don't actually try to conjure the occult because you may not be able to get rid of it.
Like Grandma used to say, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Right.
And what you said is my sentiments exactly. Don't stick your head in the lion's mouth because he might not have had lunch that day, and you just might look good. But anyhow, with all this that's taken place in your life, Jason, how can I put it? You and I'm not being smart. Please don't take it that way. This is a compliment. You sound like you really have yourself together.
Yeah, I kind of had to, and as I experienced all these different things, I grew up. I grew up really fast, and I learned to look at the world at a whole new light. When I see things, I don't see just like the sunset. I see the sunset and how it comes off the meadows, and how I see people in different lights, and I can appreciate people, and I appreciate life, and I appreciate what I have, and how I've grown, because everything that's happened to me has helped me grow not only physically, but also with knowledge. And I can never say that these experiences, as bad as they were, I wouldn't do. I regret, because I don't regret anything. It's made me a person that people have been able to come up to and talk to me about things, and I've been able to, kind of understand what they're going through. I can walk in their shoes. I can help them out, and it also helped me realize that anything can happen at any time. So I'm always got to be prepared. And so you do have to have your life together. And you grow, and as you grow, you can spread that to other people, and you can be prepared for whatever life throws at you.
In your journeys, as you went through life, do you find that there are many people out there that experience the paranormal?
Yeah, I've actually met a lot more than I probably thought I would throughout my life. As I tell my story, more and more people come out, and I think they feel comfortable with me because they know I'm not going to judge them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the worst things that people can do is when somebody comes to you with a story like this, is prejudge them.
Right.
Or just judge them in general, because it's very hard for them to talk about. It's like somebody that got raped coming up to you and saying, hey, I was raped. I mean, that is a really hard thing for them to say. So to sit there and just say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, that probably didn't happen or whatever, it did. And the only problem with ghostly encounters is that it doesn't usually leave any type of physical evidence behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So, these people are calling out for help, and they want people to believe them. They don't want to be considered like they're insane or it's all in their head, because that's the easy thing to tell them. So to really just sit there and listen to them, listen to their story, and even if you don't believe them, when they're done, you will have helped them, because they're going to be able to talk about it. They're going to be able to heal from it, and it might give them a sense of well-being that they lost, and the innocence that they lost when this kind of thing happened to them. And until we can physically say for sure that there are absolutely no ghosts or no demons, which I'm having a hard time disproving, because I've seen them, and I actually have some evidence of this stuff, that until that happens, we can't say that they're nuts. We can't say that this doesn't exist, and we need to help these people. One of the worst things that can happen to them is they keep it to themselves. That causes mental problems. It causes depression. It can cause suicide attempts, and it can make people just be antisocial, which isn't good for them.
I tell my grandkids every now and then, I come to the house one day, and two or three of them was here, and I said, you'll never believe what I just saw coming down the street. Of course, every time Pop-Up says that, they just kind of roll their eyes, because they know something strange is coming. But I said, I saw an alligator climbing a ladder. And and right away I get the looks, and then I get the uh-uhs, and Pop-Up, you're losing it, and but my response has always been, when I'm messing with them kids, my response has always been, have you ever seen an alligator climb a ladder? And of course they say no. I said, then how can you say that I didn't see an alligator climb a ladder? And that always gets them to pause and kind of like scratch their head without actually scratching their head. And just for a second, they're thinking, well, maybe Pop-Up did see that. But yet they don't want to admit that I saw that, even though I didn't see that. But you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
If we can just get people to think. I have said, I don't know, countless times on the air, I've said, there's three kinds of people. There's going to be people that believes everything that's said. There's going to be people that believes some of the things that are said. And of course, you have the third person that's going to believe absolutely nothing. But if we just get people to think, because somebody has thought we have electricity today, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. If we could just get people to think, and I believe with all my heart, there's more than just what we see that's tangible, like a table we can touch or a window we can look out. There's more to this whatever this is. There's just more to it. And listening to you talk, I could see how all these things in your life has kind of come together, and it's all jailed together in your photography work, in your book that you wrote about it. Everything that you've experienced has brought you to this point, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was destined to go through this whether I wanted to or not. I believe it was my destiny, and I'm one of those ones that can actually talk about it. I'm not afraid of those specific people that will never believe anything I say, because I'm never going to be able to convince them.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit there and not tell the story, because there are people that will believe what I say, and there are going to be people that will believe some of what I say, but that little bit of information that they pull out of my story might actually change their life. So, I'm not going to go around and continue to be quiet anymore, because I want to help those people. So, it does. Everything that you're going to go through in life is going to change your life. Every time that you're going to meet somebody in this world, they're going to change your life. It's how you accept and the information and what they provide to you to grow or not grow. That's basically what it comes down to in life. You can either accept it or not accept it. And if you don't accept it, you can't sit there and blame yourself. You can't blame anybody else for the opportunities that didn't come from that.
Have you ever had any more experiences, such as the worst one that you had with the demonic spirit?
Luckily, no. I have not run into that type of. Spirit again. I have run into like regular intellectual and residual hauntings. Those are actually a little bit more common. There's a place here in Brooksville that has a haunted house, and I've had a lot of experiences there. I've actually gone in there and tried to antagonize some of the spirits to get it to do things for us. So that way it would prove to people that they're there. I can see them. I can feel them. I can hear them. Not everybody can. So that's why I was hoping they would do something by antagonizing them. They would do that. Now, again, I've been doing this for many, many, many years, and I know what type of spirits you can antagonize and what kind of spirits you can't antagonize. So, that's why I would not suggest anybody, again, do anything that they don't know what they're doing. A lot of the spiritual activity I've had in my life, I didn't conjure up. It just found me, or I was in the wrong place at the right time. So, I learned through, basically dumb luck. But the whole point of that is, I guess the best thing I could tell you is just be open-minded, because that's going to be your best form of protection against any type of spirit that's out there. And if you recognize it, and thoroughly investigate what's going on in your house, you can deal with it accordingly. And if you see things that are really, 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 really traumatic, I'm not talking about just like things disappearing and things flying off the handle. I'm talking about physical abuse to the body and horrible nightmares and vomiting and being sick and people not wanting to come near your house because it has an evil feeling. That means you probably have something very, very diabolical there, and not deal with it and let somebody that's a professional deal with it. And you'll know when they're there. I mean, I know when they're there, and everybody can kind of feel it. That's just the way it is. So, luckily I've never had to encounter one of those again, but I know how I would deal with it and how I would tell the people if I did. I do go in a lot of people's homes, and I try to do a lot of investigations and help people out. So, probably the craziest thing I saw was it was a spirit in the house I was talking to you in Brooksville. It's kind of an angry spirit. It's not a demon, but it's an angry spirit, and people can kind of mess those two up. I actually went up there and was picking on it, and the thing growled at me. And the next time that I went to the house to investigate, I had a handprint on my chest and scratches underneath my shirt, under my chest. and nobody could explain it, but we actually got a picture of it. So, I have physical evidence of this stuff. But that was probably the closest thing to a demon that I guess you could get. But it was just basically an angry, malicious type of spirit.
Where can we get your book at, Jason?
Well, it's on just about every downloadable site that you can get. Amazon.com has one. You can also buy that's where you can also buy a physical print copy of it. You can get it at Kindle's website, Barnes and Noble's website, iBookstore for iPad for the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
You can get it on my website, DOWD with an S.com. You can go to a Haunted Soul tab, and it has all the links there that you can get it. You can get it at Lulu.com, and you can order it directly from me, and I'll autograph it.
That's great because it's in digital form, huh?
Oh yeah, it's probably one of the nicest ways of having it because you can download it. It's instantaneous. You can read it at leisure, and it actually the paperback doesn't really bring out the vivid colors and the clarity of the photos as much because it's on printed paper than the digital version because you can really see them nice and crisp and clear as you'd see it on a camera.
Oh, that's fantastic. Because I'm a real Kindle nut. Most people says I'm just a nut, but my wife and I are real Kindle fans, so that's good to know. So Barnes and Noble, Kindle, Amazon, you get it, Kindle. I guess you can get it on the Nook, the iPad. Cool. So you can get it. A Haunted Soul, a true story of one man's struggle with the paranormal. Wow. And his Jason's website is Dowd, if I can say this right. Sometimes I get all twisted up. DOWDS. I'll get it. DOWD Studios. That's plural. Studios.com. I can still tear up the English language. Tell me a little bit about your this new fandangled thing that you're doing with the old pictures and whatever this new thing is that you're using a digital camera and whatever this thing is.
Well, this is exciting. This is going to be a new art series, and I have a profound love for early Americana. People have been saying I've been born in the wrong era, the wrong century, and everything else because I just have a love for the 1800s and early 1900s all the way up to 1960. And I grew up learning photography. I learned from my dad, but my dad never showed me how to really make a picture. He told me how the camera works and stuff like that, and I had my own eye for it. But when I kind of got into the portraitures as I got older, I started looking at all the old photos. I mean, my grandmother and me would sit down and just look at old photos all day long. And we found some old photos in my great-aunt's house, and they were like actual tintypes, and I didn't know what they were, and they weren't of our family. We found them in a like a little compartment underneath her stairway, and I was really intrigued by these things. And then I started seeing all the Coca-Cola ads and the 1940s Coca-Cola ads and the working industrial girl and all the war efforts and the Santa Clauses and all this other kind of stuff. And then I started seeing like the 1950s pinup girls and the 1940s pinup girls and all this other kind of stuff. I'm like, man, this is really intense stuff. And this is how I learned how to take photos, by actually going out and buying cabinet cards and daguerreotypes and ambrotypes and carte de vis and all these other types of cabinet cards. And I studied these guys, and I really tried to capture the feel of how they managed to do this with old-fashioned cameras. A lot of it was the specific lighting. Some of it was just props. But they all have that specific ambiance to them. And that's hard to capture. So what I have done is I've actually studied the lighting, how they lit it, the backdrops, the props, the expressions, the hairstyles, and everything else, all the way down to the wire. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to allow people to take that type of photo and have it look like it came off of those specific cameras back in the day using a digital camera.
You you are one intense man. I mean, I can hear your heartbeat. You've got a real passion for this stuff. I don't know much about photography other than I point my camera and push the little doodad. But I love pictures. When we were at Gettysburg several years ago, my son-in-law and my grandson and myself had our picture taken, and they put it on what's it called, a tin or tin? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I think that is the neatest. I didn't understand it. I know they put it in some kind of chemical, and it had to do something. Then we come back and got it, and I was watching them do some other ones. But so you're going to be able to take pictures like that with a digital camera and make it look like it was back then.
Exactly. I did 2 of them already, probably the most intense ones that I've done. We went to this old house up in Dade City, and I had one of my models that was dressed up in like old clothing, sitting in a chair by a window. And if you've ever looked at the way that these photos look when you shoot them in a window, you don't see every aspect of the window. A lot of time what you see is like a little overexposed, so it overexposes the person a little bit, and it has that creepy, like a vacancy type of picture. It's got a lot of heart and warmth into it, but the exposure gives it that creep factor.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did is I went in there and I shot a photo looking at the window. She's reading a book, and she's in this old rocking chair, very old stuff around her. It looks basically 1890s. And all I did was I used a very specific f-stop, and I used a greater aperture. And what I did was I shot it black and white. I added more contrast to it, and what I got was something that looked just like an 1800s tintype photo. And the glow on her face, the overexposure of the window, the details that came about, the dark, rich colors looks like it was made with silver, which is what they used to use a long time ago. And it was just a really intense picture. The other one that I did was a 1960s pinup for Coca-Cola. It was actually a senior project that I was mentoring my niece with, and it was the project where she had to choose a profession and completely engulf herself into it. So we got into this, and I tried to tell her, we're going to do something like it's an advertiser that's going to come to us, ask for a picture to be shot. We're going to walk through the model, the era, what we're going to do, what we're going to make it look like. And I decided to go with the Coca-Cola picture. So we found the model. I had her call up, and I knew which model was going to say yes, which model was going to say no. And we went through the whole process. And when I shot this thing, it was in my living room. It was on a white background. The model, I was the photographer. She was the project director. So she was telling me what to do. And we had the model get down on her one knee, kind of put her foot out. She was in a 1950s poodle skirt, whole 1950s outfit, had her hair done up, we had the makeup done up, and all I did was use some ambient yellow lights. And we were shooting it, and then finally my dog was over in the corner, and he wanted to be involved with everything. That's just what he does. He looked like the little Buster Brown dog. And we were feeding him pizza to keep him out of the picture. And finally we were like, well, we can't keep feeding him pizza. He's going to have to run. So we let him go. And he walked up and went underneath her leg and turned and looked at me. I'm like, this is perfect. So I said, you want to go for a ride? So he perked his little ears up. I shot the picture, and it actually made it into Coca-Cola's headquarters in Atlanta because it looked so authentic. There was no Photoshop done to it at all, except for the lettering on there that I had to put on. I said, whenever there was thirst, there's always Coca-Cola. And it's just a really intense picture because it has the look like the red and yellow overtone to it by using the floodlights, the ambient yellow floodlights, and setting my white balance setting so it's not sheer white. And it gave her that classic coloring that you would normally get back in the day when they would sit there and like pencil it in and color it in with watercolors and stuff. So it was a really intense picture. And then I did one that was like a Breakfast at Tiffany's, where because I love Audrey Hepburn, and I loved how she shot the picture on the cover to Breakfast at Tiffany's movie. And so we recreated that one, and she looks just like Audrey Hepburn, really, in many ways. I recreated the 1950s when Marilyn Monroe did that movie where her dress blew up.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a place down here. We actually had to shoot it in two different places. I shot pictures of her with fans blowing up, trying to blow her dress up in their backyard, and then I imposed her onto a road that looks kind of similar to what this particular picture looked like, but still looked like it was in L.A. in downtown Tampa. I shot the Queen Anne Boleyn. I mean, we did a lot of research on that one. I actually got the self-portrait that she did back in the day as the painting of her, and we matched her outfit, we matched her headdress and everything like that. I made it sepia tone, and another one that we did was a Betty Davis. As like I was telling you about that one, I recreated some of her earlier pictures from like the 1920s. We did her hair, we did her eyes, we did everything as Audrey Hepburn, the young Audrey Hepburn would have done. Or Betty Davis, I'm sorry. And then I'm trying to think, we did another one, but I can't remember what it was offhand. I think it was I did some other ones, but I can't remember exactly what they were right offhand. But it just took a lot of attention to detail. I mean, different lightings, do different types of effects. Different white balances can override those effects. Different types of exposures can overexpose or underexpose the pictures, throwing off the effects of it. The costume, if it's just slightest bit off, can throw off things. So it's really hard to do, but it's a lot of fun. And it gets to show people what they look like in different eras that they normally wouldn't have.
Is there any website, any place that you can see any of these pictures that you're talking about?
Yeah, you can go to my website at dowdstudios.com and there I'm still uploading all the vintage photos because it's just something I'm putting together now. I have more that I'm going to be taking later, so it's always going to be added to it. It's going to be an ongoing project.
Okay.
And I'm also going to be putting them up on Facebook, which you can go to facebook.com/Dowd Studios Art. There's a vintage folder, and you can see them in there.
Oh, great.
That's the other one I did remember. I did a 1950s bathing suit picture that we did, which was really a really neat type of feel and effect, too.
Seems like you're a very busy man.
I try to be.
Excuse me, I'm fighting this crazy cold. Jason?
Yes.
You are a real treat to have as a guest. And listen, I mean this. I've had a ball. I have had a ball. You are intense, exciting, articulate, and I mean it just goes on and on and on and on. I am so glad. Before I let you go, tell our listeners about the website for C.P. Kelly.
Okay. Yeah, C.P. Kelly, one of the other things I do is because through my artwork, I'm a publicist, and I've also had many years in the music business. And C.P. Kelly happens to be one of my dearest friends. He has overcome so much stuff, and I've taken him on as a client to help him get to that next goal. And what we're doing right now is you can go to his website at cpkelly, KELLEY.com. Listen to his music. He just released his brand new single, off of Absolute Resolution, called "A New Way to Fly," which is a remake from Garth Brooks. And that CD is currently being worked on right now, and it's going to have tons of originals off of it. But one of the things that we're trying to do is he has a cousin to MS, so it's progressive. It takes a lot of money. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to physically afford 3/4 of the album's fees, but we're just a little shy of it. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to raise money to help him get out there and record this album and put it together for everybody to enjoy. And any money that we get that's left over is actually going to go into putting together a touring band and submit tours. So he can maybe come to your area. So if you go to his website, there's a couple things you can do. There is a link on there that will allow you to go and fund a Kickstarter account. The Kickstarter we're looking for, our goal is $800, and you'll get certain prizes for a specific denomination level that you decide to help with. So I think it's like $5 and up, you get something. And there's the other thing that you can do, and that's let me come back to that for one second. If you pledge something and we do not hit the $800, we do not get the money. So you will not be charged any type of credit card, and it ends in 30 days. So that's going to be up there now. The other thing that you can do to support him is to go onto his website, and you'll see a thing that says demand me. That takes you to Eventful. And what you're going to do is by liking him and demanding him, is going to put you in there into this queue for him for your specific city. So if we see that there's a lot of demands for him in a specific city, we'll work to try to get his radio promotions through there. We'll try to get a tour through there, and when we book a tour, when we put it on his events, it will send you an email notification that he's coming to your city and where and when. So it's a neat way to keep up with him and to kind of let us know where he needs to go to where his fans are. So that's a very important thing that you can do. And also like his Facebook and tell people about him.
So his Kickstarter fund is good for 30 days, and we're trying to raise $800.
Correct.
Or more.
Or more. And right now you can go to his Facebook page, which is CP Kelly Music. It's all over there. There's links all over the place. It's also going to be on his regular website, which I'm going to be putting up here probably tomorrow because it just got approved. So that takes a little bit more encoding to do it. But you'll see it'll be the top news thing to click on below. Just click on that. It'll have the link, and you'll be able to go and help him out with help him raise some money for an amazing individual who's got an amazing talent and who has not let anything, even a life-threatening illness, get in his way of his dreams.
I know when we had him on the show here a couple of weeks ago before Christmas, he was a real delight, an inspiration, and he was a big hit. People are still going back and listening to that show. So cpkelly.com, that's Kelley, cpkelly.com, and there we can go to Demand Me. There's a link to go to the Kickstarter fund.
Yes, there's going to be links to the demand it, and there's also going to be a link to the Kickstarter right on the homepage.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, at least $800. If a whole lot of us each do a little bit, we'll have a whole bunch by the time we get done. So we got 30 days. Did you start it yet, or
yes, we did. We did start it. I started it up. I started it up last Thursday, okay. And it got approved on Friday, and it just started to kick off today. So actually, it kicked off over the weekend. So we have probably like 27 days, something like that, to get the money. Okay,
we'll get stuff up on our website. I'll keep it out there in front of people. Let's get behind CP Kelly, because he's a delightful individual. He's a real inspiration. Jason, thank you so very, very much, and I hope that you'll come back with me again someday.
Oh, I'll come back anytime you want. I had an absolute blast.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, sir. I've got your email, address, the whole schmear. You've got mine. Keep sending me stuff, and we'll stay in touch and keep going, all right?
Fantastic. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And
there we are. Fantastic. Wonderful Wonderful. Man, that was exciting. I'll be back right after this. Yeah. Boy, it's great to be back. You're listening to the George Espinlove Show, coming to you live from the Funny Farm in a place called Our World. My many, many thanks to Jason Dowd for being with us tonight. Wow. My, oh my. Go to Dowd, that's D-O-W-D, Studios, that's plural, DOWDstudios.com. Amazing talent. It just intrigues me how people can have so much talent. Then I look at myself and I think, duh. But anyhow, thank you, Jason. It was a blast. I mean, that was very interesting. And if you know someone that you want to listen to the show, tell them. Tell them. Everything is archived. You can come back and back and back and back. There is nothing any better than that. Angie and the Car Wrecks. I love that. I love that. Both of those songs, Moonshine and Have Another One by Angie and the Car Wrecks. I just like to throw something like that in there every now and then. We have had a delightful time tonight, and it's so good to be back on the air. We had a great Christmas, spent time with family, friends, the way Christmas is supposed to be spent. And then the moon rock fell. Now I'm not the kind of person that gets sick. Very seldom do I get down. But usually when I get something, I get the biggest dose or the strangest dose that came down the pike. And I really got me a dose that time. But I'm back up on my feet. We're moving on, and we are planning, and we are anticipating, and we're just going to have us a good time. And tomorrow night, where's my little gizmo at here? Where'd it go? Somebody moves my gizmo, and I'm all messed up here. Tomorrow night, let me get my little magic gizmo here, which is the 8th of January. Ryan Hunter will be with us. Google it. Do your homework. On the 9th, Carrie Kendall will be with us. Google it. Do your homework. We like people to do their homework. And then on the 10th, we are going to have a special guest that has an intriguing, that has written an intriguing book. My, you talk about a disappearance. I mean, up, going, here one day, going the same day, disappearo, I mean, out of it. One of those type of things. A man that wrote a book about a disappearance. And I think once you hear it, a lot of us are familiar with what happened, but nobody knows what happened. So all this week we have guests. I'm not making a lick of sense, but that's just the way it is around here. All this week we've got guests. I have been in touch with our district superintendent of our school district here in our area. And I know in light of what happened in Newtown, Connecticut, the question is being asked across this nation in every school district, what can we do to keep our children safe? I'm going to have our school district superintendent on, and we're going to discuss those things. It is not only relevant for our school district, it's relevant for every school district in the state, for every state across the nation, and for every school in this world, because it's just the way it is. And we have to do everything within our power, and we have to use our God-given abilities to protect our young people. So our superintendent is going to be with us very, very soon. We've talked. We're going to schedule, and then I will make the announcement. It'll be passed throughout this district and around other districts here in the state of Delaware, and we'll pass it on to you because it's relevant for wherever you are at. We mentioned C.P. Kelly. C.P. Kelly was with us several weeks ago before Christmas time, and he has a disease that is a cousin to MS. It's a debilitating disease, but he's going to fulfill his dream. When he was here, he was an inspiration to me. Now, the fellow that was just on with us, Jason Dowd, is CP's publicist, and he started a fundraiser. It's called a Kickstarter fund. Here's what we need. We need at least $800 so that CP can get in the recording studio and get this thing done. Anything that's left over, then it'll be used for him to get him a band and so on and so forth. But you can go to CP Kelly, that's CP Kelly, KELLEY.com. That's his website. You can go there and click on a spot called Demand Me, or you can go there and get to the Kickstarter fund. Listen, if a whole lot of us do a little bit, we'll have a whole bunch by the time we're done. And we can get this man up and running, that he can fulfill his dream. So do that for me, will you? C.P. Kelly, KELLEY.com.
Like birds on a high line, they line up at night time at the bar. They all once were lovebirds, and bluebirds are all that they are. They landed in hell the minute they fell from love's sky, and now they hope in the wine that they'll find a new way to fly, a new way to fly, far away from goodbye, above the clouds and the rain, the memories and the pain, and the tears that they cry. Learn. They've all crashed and burned. They can leave it behind as soon as they find a new way to fly. By the end of the night, they'll be high as a kite once again. They don't seem to mind all the time for the money they spend. It's a high price to pay to just find a way to get by. But it's worth every dime till they find a new way to fly, a new way to fly, far away from goodbye, above the clouds and the rain, the memories and the pain, and the tears that they cry. Now the lessons been learned, they all crash and burn. They can leave it behind as soon as they find a new way to fly. They'll leave it behind as soon as they find a new way to fly.
C.P. Kelly. A tremendous man. An inspiration to all of us. C.P. Kelly. Go to C.P. Kelly. That's KELLEY.com. That's KELLEY.com. C.P. Kelly. Go there. There's a place there that says Demand Him on Event. You can click there. And Jason said he'll get that Kickstarter fundraiser link put up there for us. He said probably tomorrow. So go to cpkelly.com. Please do that. Just take a few minutes. Look, put a few bucks in there. If we all put a few bucks, he'll have a whole lot of bucks, and he can have his dream come true. Get in that studio and get this thing done, and then go on tour. He's fighting a dreadful disease. If he can fight that dreadful disease and keep on going, let's give him the fuel. Let's get behind him so that he can keep on going. A few bucks here and a few bucks there, before you know it, he'll have a whole lot of bucks. We're aiming for $800. Anything over and above that is great. cpkelly.com. Please, if you don't know how to get there or whatever, get a hold of me. George C.E. That's George C.E. at Comcast.net. I'll point you in the right direction. George C.E. at Comcast.net. Oh, we've had a delightful time the first night back, and there's more to come. We are just delighted for the privilege and the opportunity to be able to come night after night. It is indeed a privilege. Thank you. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for everything that you have done. And remember, there's a whole lot of love coming to you from the Funny Farm. Regardless of what you're going through, no matter where you're at. Listen to me. If it's nighttime, you have a great night. If it's already tomorrow where you're at, you have a good day. A great day. A wonderful day. But nonetheless, just remember, we care about you. Until tomorrow night, same time, same station, right here on the Spreaker Network, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Tune in to the George Espinlove Show that comes to you live Monday through Friday, every night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, live from the Funny Farm in a place called Our World. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, boys and girls, wherever you're at, whatever you might be doing. Until tomorrow night, this is George Espinlove saying one more time, good night, and God bless you.